5:12 local time, North Atlantic. From the flight deck, the ocean looks almost empty. Low gray clouds hang over a slow, pale swell, while routine flight operations continue exactly on schedule. Below deck, inside the carrier's Combat Information Center, a single headset breaks the quiet. Transient bearing 98, possible submerged contact. There is no alarm, not yet. Only a slight change in posture. The acoustic operator leans closer to the waterfall display, eyes fixed on a thin, uneven trace pulsing across the screen. It is not biological, it is not surface traffic, it sounds mechanical. Con, sonar. We have a faint narrowband return. Diesel signature, intermittent cavitation. The carrier does not alter course. It does not need to. The tactical action officer speaks in a calm, level voice. Do not classify. Tag and track. At 5:13, a guided missile destroyer holding position off the starboard quarter confirms the anomaly. Its AN/SQQ-89 system catches a faint shape below the thermocline, roughly 900 feet down. The contact is slow, moving at 6 knots, holding steady. The North Atlantic is layered this morning. A sharp thermal boundary bends sound in unpredictable ways, creating almost perfect conditions for a submarine trying to vanish. Possible kilo variant, the destroyer reports. Profile not confirmed. That word, possible, hangs over the room. Project 636 improved Kilo-class submarines are known for being extremely quiet at low speed. Diesel-electric, built for patience, built to wait in silence, while larger ships move unknowingly inside their reach. At 5:14, the contact shifts. Bearing change 5 degrees starboard. Speed increase 8 knots. It is not drifting, it is maneuvering. Inside CIC, no one raises their voice. Above them, the carrier's air wing continues cycling aircraft. On radar, the sky remains clear. On the surface, the formation stays tight, disciplined, and ordinary. Nothing about the strike group's posture reveals concern. Condition 3, the TAO orders. Set ASW watch. Maintain formation. No klaxons, no shouting, just a quiet tightening of the net. At 5:15, passive sonar aboard the cruiser on the port side catches a metallic knock. Short. Hollow. Internal. Not propulsion. Not ballast. The acoustic chief rewinds the recording and plays it again through his headset. Clank. Pause. A low hydraulic whine. He looks up. Con. Sonar. Possible outer door cycling. Recommend defensive readiness review. Outer door cycling on a Kilo-class submarine often comes before launch tube preparation. The range is updated. 11 nautical miles. Close enough to matter. Not close enough to break discipline. On the bridge, the captain studies the tactical display without changing expression. The carrier maintains 20 knots. Heading unchanged. Deploy helo, he says. At 5:17, on the destroyer's flight deck, an MH-60R Seahawk begins to spin up. The deck crew moves with mechanical precision. No rush, no wasted motion. The helicopter lifts into the gray sky, banks low over the water, then drops to 200 feet. Its mission is not dramatic. It is surgical. Back in CIC, the contact dips 10 feet deeper, then steadies at 910 feet. Speed rises again. 10 knots. That increase changes the geometry. Contact is closing lateral separation, the surface warfare coordinator notes. Vector suggests parallel shadow. The submarine is not rushing in blindly. It is pacing the carrier. At 5:19, the Seahawk reaches the initial datum. Its dipping sonar enters the water with a clean splash. The first ping rolls outward in a controlled acoustic wave. Silence. Second ping. A faint echo returns, bent and distorted by the thermal layer. Third ping. Solid contact. Air confirms submarine bearing 96. Range 9.8 nautical miles. The classification sharpens. Hull form, screw blade count, acoustic harmonics, confirmed. Improved Kilo-class profile, 9.8 nautical miles. A Kilo-class submarine valued at around $20 million in export configuration is sitting less than 10 miles from a U.S. carrier. A nuclear-powered aircraft carrier does not need flares, radio calls, or public signals. Only calculations. At 5:21, the submarine changes course, turning 20 degrees toward the carrier's projected path. Its speed rises to 12 knots. The acoustic team catches another metallic sound, longer this time. Con, sonar, high confidence, launch tube outer door open. The words are delivered as calmly as a weather report. The carrier still does not turn. Instead, the strike group tightens its unseen perimeter. Destroyers adjust by small degrees, closing their arcs. The cruiser refines its tracking grid. Data links pass encrypted traffic through the formation, invisible and unheard beyond the hulls. Above the water, the Seahawk releases the first sonobuoy in Pattern Alpha. The submarine is no longer a shadow. It is now inside a three-dimensional box of sensors. At 5:22, the range closes to 8 nautical miles. In less than 4 minutes, if an underwater munition leaves its tube at standard sprint speed, it will remain in the water long enough to matter. Inside CIC, the tactical action officer folds his arms. The submarine thinks it is hunting, he says quietly. On the main display, the contact symbol pulses steady red beneath the carrier's projected track. It does not realize it is already inside the containment grid. 5:23 local time. Above the surface, the North Atlantic remains gray, cold, and indifferent. Below it, the geometry is tightening. Range 8.2 nautical miles, sonar reports. Contact steady at 12 knots. Depth 915 feet. The Seahawk hovers low over the datum, its rotor wash carving faint rings into the water. Inside the cabin, the sensor operator studies the dipping sonar returns. Strong hull reflection, confirmed Kilo class. No escort signatures detected. No escort. That simplifies the board. At 5:24, the tactical action officer gives one small nod. Barrier pattern alpha complete. Transition to Bravo. The helicopter banks and lays a second sonobuoy line 500 yards east of the first, then another to the south. A triangle begins to form. The submarine is no longer simply detected, it is being measured. On the cruiser's display, acoustic lines begin to converge. Triangulation improving, the anti-submarine coordinator says. Contact bearing 94. Course correction toward carrier track. Speed now 14 knots. 14 knots. That is no longer passive shadowing speed. That is repositioning. Inside CIC, no one uses the word threat. Not yet. At 5:25, a narrow spike flashes across the passive array. Transient high-frequency burst, sonar reports. Possible pump activation. Another metallic resonance follows. Longer, more deliberate. The acoustic chief answers without hesitation. Con, sonar, tube 2 cycling, high-confidence launch preparation. Silence settles for half a heartbeat. On the bridge, the captain keeps his eyes on the horizon. Execute maneuver Delta, he orders calmly. The carrier adjusts 10 degrees to port, not sharply, not dramatically, just enough to complicate the submarine's solution. Below the surface, the contact keeps closing. Range 7.1 nautical miles, the destroyer reports. Angle on bow decreasing. At this distance, a 533mm wake tracking system would need less than 4 minutes to reach its final approach. The Seahawk crew hears the tension through their headsets. Deploy active sweep, the aircraft commander says. The next sonar pulse is stronger, louder. It rolls through the water column like a warning bell. The return comes back sharp. The Kilo's outline is unmistakable now. Cylindrical hull, faint sail structure, a full acoustic shape forming in the dark. They know we see them, the sensor operator says quietly. At 5:27, the submarine reacts. Contact accelerating, sonar announces. Now 16 knots, depth holding. 16 knots on diesel-electric propulsion increases cavitation. Cavitation increases noise. Noise weakens stealth. The submarine is trading silence for position. Recommend defensive posture review, the ASW coordinator says. The TAO does not look up. Stand by ASC. Hold all releases. The destroyer's vertical system sits silent, charged with potential. Inside one of its cells is a RUM-139 anti-submarine interceptor, built to place a compact underwater seeker directly above a submerged contact within seconds. But no one acts first without confirmation. 5:28. Another spike appears. This one is different. Con, sonar, we have a high-speed mechanical transient. Possible inner door open. The acoustic chief rolls the buffer back. There it is. The distinct hydraulic whine of a tube being equalized before release. Range now 6.4 nautical miles. Inside CIC, every breath stays measured. Time to firing solution? The captain asks over the circuit. Under 90 seconds if they are fully prepared, comes the answer. The carrier keeps moving forward, engine steady at 20 knots. Flight deck operations have stopped, aircraft are secured. Above deck, nothing looks rushed. Below deck, every system is awake. At 5:29, the Seahawk shifts position. Recommend immediate sonobuoy drop ahead of contact, the aircrew commander says. Boxing maneuver approved. A buoy splashes down directly along the submarine's projected path. Seconds later, its receiver comes alive. Contact bearing steady, the operator confirms. Submarine committed on intercept vector. Committed. The word lands heavily. The submarine is no longer pacing. It is cutting across the carrier's bow. Classic ambush geometry. Close range, forward arc. Almost no room for delay. At 5:30, the destroyer's fire control team completes a defensive solution. ASROC solution ready, they report. Hold, the TAO says. Then it happens. A sharp acoustic crack cuts through the passive feed, followed by a rush of broadband noise. Con, sonar, the operator calls. High-speed screw rotation detected. Possible underwater munition release. the screen blooms with a new contact. Small, fast, accelerating. Range 6 nautical miles, sonar reports. Speed 40 plus knots, bearing stable. 40 plus knots, that is interception speed. Inside CIC, no one raises their voice. The TAO gives one command. Deploy Nixie, execute countermeasure protocol. A towed decoy drops into the Atlantic behind the carrier, broadcasting a false acoustic signature designed to pull a tracking system away from the ship. Release ASROC, the captain says. At 5:31, a vertical cell flashes open, and the anti-submarine interceptor rises from the deck, arcing into the grey sky toward the calculated splash point. Below the surface, the fast-moving contact continues closing. 3 minutes to impact. Inside CIC, every eye locks onto two converging tracks, one descending from above, one racing through the dark below. If the submarine acts again, the window becomes even smaller. The Seahawk circles tightly overhead. Contact still accelerating, the aircrew reports. Submarine speed now 18 knots. 18 knots. The Hunter has gone loud, and the ocean is about to answer. 5:31:40 local time. The ASROC is already descending over the Atlantic. Its motor burns out cleanly. The payload separates in mid-arc, and a compact lightweight seeker drops under parachute toward coordinates calculated less than 10 seconds earlier. Below the surface, the sprinting contact keeps closing. Range 5.2 nautical miles, sonar reports. Object speed 45 knots, bearing steady. 45 knots means roughly 75 feet per second. Time to intercept is under 3 minutes. The carrier does not accelerate. Instead, it turns another 5 degrees to port. Subtle, controlled. Just enough to stretch the incoming contact's tracking geometry. Deploy second Nixie, the TAO orders. A second acoustic decoy splashes into the Atlantic, broadcasting a louder, more tempting signature than the carrier's propellers. A false giant, a false heartbeat. 5:32. The ASRO sea payload enters the water. Splash. For half a second, there is nothing. Water entry confirmed, the destroyer reports. Underwater seeker active. Inside CIC, two submerged tracks now glow on the tactical display. One inbound, one hunting. Seahawk, maintain top cover, the ASW coordinator says. The helicopter banks hard, its crew tracking both wakes through sonobuoy data and fresh dipping sonar returns. Primary submarine contact now 18 knots, the sensor operator reports. Cavitation increasing. 18 knots on a diesel-electric hull is not quiet. It is urgent. At 5:32:30, sonar calls again. Con, sonar, incoming contact adjusting bearing. It is searching. Wake homing systems do not move blindly. They look for turbulence, pressure changes, and the acoustic pattern of large propellers. The decoys begin transmitting more aggressively. Countermeasure signal strong, the electronic warfare technician confirms. The inbound contact wavers slightly off its original line, then it corrects. Still coming. Range 4.1 nautical miles, sonar reports. 2 minutes. Meanwhile, the ASROC's underwater seeker accelerates. Hunter contact speed 30 knots, the destroyer reports, descending toward target depth. At 5:33, a sudden broadband spike erupts across the passive array. Con, sonar, submarine changing depth, rapid descent. The Kilo dives another 40 feet, trying to slip beneath the expected search layer. Too late. Hunter seeker acquiring, the ASW coordinator says quietly. On the screen, the outbound track tightens its circle. Its seeker is active now, searching for the loudest metal shape in the water. The incoming contact makes its choice. Contact shifting, sonar calls. Inbound bearing drift, 3 degrees starboard, 3 degrees, then 6. It is taking the bait. The Nixie decoy's artificial signature begins to overpower the carrier's real wake. Range 3 nautical miles, sonar says. Inbound contact no longer aligned with carrier. No one celebrates. At 5:33:40, the incoming contact commits fully to the decoy. Its track bends sharply away from the carrier's hull. Contact with decoy expected in 20 seconds. On the surface, nothing changes. The carrier pushes forward, engines steady. Above deck, the crew feels none of the violence unfolding far below. Then, underwater, a sharp white flash blooms through the dark. Impact recorded, sonar reports. Decoy destroyed, no shockwave on hull. The carrier remains untouched, but the fight below is not finished. The ASROC's underwater seeker is still running. Range to submarine 1.8 nautical miles, the destroyer announces. The Kilo attempts one final maneuver. Submarine speed now 20 knots, sonar says. Heavy cavitation, propulsion stressed. 20 knots for a Kilo-class hull underwater is loud, painfully loud, visible to every passive array within miles. Hunter-Seeker entering terminal phase, the ASW coordinator confirms. At 5:34:15, a second underwater blast rolls through the Atlantic. This one is deeper, heavier. CIC falls silent for 3 full seconds. The acoustic operators rewind the feed. Con, sonar, strong underwater event at submarine depth. Secondary metallic reverberation. Propulsion noise degraded. On the tactical screen, the red submarine icon flickers. Its speed drops from 20 knots to 8, then 4. Contact losing propulsion integrity, sonar continues. Irregular shaft rotation detected. The Hunter did not miss. It may not have ended the submarine completely, but it has ended its stealth. At 5:35, the Kilo-class contact is no longer pacing the carrier. It is limping. Submarine speed 3 knots, sonar says. Depth unstable. Ballast cycling. The Seahawk crew watches the disturbed signature below. They are hurt, the pilot says quietly. Inside CIC, the captain folds his hands behind his back. Maintain pressure, he orders. Do not lose contact. The strike group does not cheer. It does not push further than necessary. It tightens. Because a compromised submarine is still a submarine. And at this distance, the vessel has already lost the one thing it needed most. Silence. 5:35, 40 local time. Above the surface, the Atlantic remains calm. Below it, the geometry has changed. Submarine speed 3 knots, sonar repeats. Depth 960 feet. Ballast cycling irregular. Irregular means something is wrong. It also means unpredictable. Inside the Combat Information Center, no one assumes the confrontation is over. A damaged submarine can still act. A Kilo-class boat does not carry only one underwater round. Maintain track. Expand barrier, the tactical action officer orders. The Seahawk shifts east, releasing another sonobuoy to close the last gap in the acoustic net. The buoy splashes down and begins transmitting within seconds, feeding fresh data into the strike group's network. On the screen, the red submarine icon flickers again. Contact attempting depth change, sonar reports. Descending past 1,000 feet. The captain studies the display. They are trying to hide in the bottom layer. At that depth, thermal distortion increases. Acoustic reflections scatter. A submarine commander might gamble that damage, depth, and darkness are enough to slip away. But the Kilo is no longer quiet. Cavitation remains high, the acoustic chief says. Prop shaft misaligned. Every rotation of that damaged shaft is like a signal flare in the water. 5:37. Range to carrier now increasing, the destroyer announces. Submarine no longer on intercept vector. The geometry confirms it. Instead of angling toward the carrier's bow, the submarine is turning away slowly and unevenly, trying to create distance. Course shift 20 degrees starboard, sonar continues. Speed holding at 3 knots. The strike group adjusts with it. The cruiser tightens its arc. The destroyer edges closer, maintaining a safe but unmistakably dominant distance. The Seahawk hovers just beyond visual range of the submarine's projected ascent path. No one speaks of ending the pursuit. No one needs to. 5:39. Another metallic groan moves through the passive feed. Pressure hull stress audible, sonar reports. Emergency ballast purge detected. Ballast purge. That is not subtle. That is survival. Moments later, the acoustic signature changes again. It is no longer a controlled depth adjustment. It is rapid vertical movement. They are coming up, the ASW coordinator says quietly. The captain gives a single nod. Clear surface picture. Hold defensive posture. 5:41. The ocean surface breaks. First, a faint shimmer. Then the conning tower punches through gray water in a violent surge of foam. The Kilo-class submarine surfaces hard, listing slightly to port. Water pours from its black hull. Exhaust vents push vapor into the cold Atlantic air. On the Seahawk's nose camera, the image is sharp and undeniable. Submarine surfaced, the pilot confirms. Multiple personnel visible topside. Through magnification, sailors can be seen climbing out of the sail hatch. Orange life vests. One crewman gripping the railing with both hands. No visible armaments active. No exposed deck system. Just steel, cold air, and people trying to stay alive. Inside CIC, the tactical display updates. Contact speed 0, surface state confirmed. The destroyer shifts slightly closer, but keeps a respectful distance. Its 5-inch mount rotates just enough to be understood, not aligned, not active, only ready. The cruiser maintains a passive tracking lock. The carrier never slows. 5:43. The Seahawk descends to 300 feet, orbiting wide. Its crew records everything. Hull markings are visible. Aft section damage confirmed. A faint discoloration stretches near the propulsion area, close to where the underwater impact occurred. Propulsion section appears compromised, the sensor operator says. No visible forward hull breach. The Kilo floats low in the water, alive, but beaten. A signal light flashes briefly from the submarine's sail, too distant to read clearly. No distress flare, no radio call, just presence. On the carrier, the captain listens to the status update without changing expression. Maintain overwatch. Do not close inside 2 nautical miles. There will be no boarding, no seizure. These are international waters. The objective was never total destruction. It was denial. At 5:45, the submarine's diesel engines cough to life above the surface. Thick smoke trails behind it as the vessel begins a slow turn away from the carrier strike group. Contact heading 045. Sonar confirms. Speed increasing to 4 knots. Surface transit. The geometry changes again. Now the distance is growing. The Seahawk completes one final orbit. The destroyer slides back into its protective screen. Inside CIC, the contact icon changes from red to amber. Threat neutralized. Not destroyed, not lost beneath the waves. Neutralized. At 5:47, the captain gives one final instruction. Log the event. Resume standard formation. The carrier continues across the North Atlantic as if nothing happened. Behind it, a $20 million submarine limps away on the surface. Its stealth is gone. Its ambush is broken. Its message has been answered without a direct strike against the carrier itself. No celebration follows, only disciplined silence. Because in modern naval warfare, sometimes the most decisive victory is the one that ends without another exchange. And this one ended with steel rising out of the sea, not in triumph, but in surrender to physics, pressure, and precision. 5:48 local time. The North Atlantic returns to routine. On radar, the surface submarine is now a slow-moving surface contact, no longer a hidden underwater concern. Its wake is thin, its speed is modest, its posture is unmistakably defensive. Range increasing, sonar reports. Submarine steady on 045, speed 5 knots. 5 knots is not tactical movement, 5 knots exit speed. The Seahawk holds altitude at 500 feet, orbiting just long enough to capture final imagery. Propulsion housing damage. Heat bloom along the aft section. Emergency ballast stain still streaking down the hull. Inside the helicopter, the sensor operator timestamps the footage. Full visual confirmation complete, he says. No exposed systems, no secondary release indications. The submarine's deck crew avoid eye contact with the aircraft overhead. One sailor stands near the sail, scanning the horizon through binoculars. Another adjusts a line along the casing, hands steady but deliberate. No salute, no signal flare. Just quiet acknowledgement. Back inside the carrier's Combat Information Center, the tactical display is calm again. The red symbol has been reclassified, amber, then white. Submarine contact neutralized, the ASW coordinator states for the record. No further aggressive movement detected. The captain listens, then gives a single nod. Resume standard ASW posture. Maintain passive track until contact exits the operational envelope. No pursuit order, no final blow. The objective was never erasure, it was control. At 5:52, the destroyer repositions to its assigned screening station. The cruiser widens its arc. The carrier's air wing resumes pre-flight checks below deck. On the surface, nothing appears out of place. Above deck, sailors who felt none of the underwater pressure pulses return to their posts. The Atlantic wind carries the same cold bite it had 40 minutes earlier, but inside CIC, the data keeps flowing. Acoustic signatures captured. Propulsion irregularities logged. Release profile recorded down to the millisecond. The submarine thought it was approaching unseen. Instead, it delivered its acoustic fingerprint directly into the strike group's library. 5:55. Contact now 12 nautical miles and opening. Sonar reports. At this range, the Kilo-class submarine is no longer inside effective ambush geometry. By surfacing, it has given up its greatest advantage: stealth. The captain steps away from the tactical display and glances briefly toward the bulkhead clock. 43 minutes from the first faint transient to surface withdrawal. 43 minutes to dismantle an ambush. No direct hit against the carrier, no hull damage sustained, no escalation beyond calculated force. The Seahawk peels away and returns to the destroyer's deck. Its rotors slow, tie-down chains secure the aircraft. The crew exchange short nods. Professional, controlled, complete. At 6:01, the submarine continues east-northeast, still on the surface. Smoke from its diesel engines thins as speed stabilizes. Contact exiting sensor dominance in approximately 7 minutes, sonar notes. The carrier never truly changed its pace beyond minor course corrections. Its reactors hold steady output. Its silhouette remains fixed against the gray horizon. A $20 million submarine attempted to challenge a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. It left exposed. Not erased, exposed. At 6:04, sonar reports again. Contact range 18 nautical miles. Acoustic strength diminishing. The ASW coordinator leans back slightly. Passive track only, he confirms. No need for further pressure. The message has already been delivered. Inside the ship's log, a new entry is recorded. 512. Submerged contact detected. 531. Incoming underwater contact countered and defeated. 534. A SROC event degraded opposing propulsion. 541. Submarine surfaced. 547. Opposing contact withdrew. No adjectives, no commentary, just facts. Above the waterline, the ocean swallows the tension as quickly as it created it. The submarine becomes a smaller and smaller shape against the steel-colored sea. At 6:08, sonar finally says the words everyone has been waiting for. Contact lost beyond acoustic reliability. The icon disappears from the screen. White space replaces it. The captain folds his hands behind his back. Stand down to condition 3, he orders. No applause follows. Only the steady rhythm of a carrier strike group moving forward. Because this is how naval power works in the modern era. Precision over panic. Control over chaos. Dominance without spectacle. A submarine tried to hunt. It acted first. It lost stealth, lost propulsion, and surfaced beneath watchful rotors and trained optics. And the carrier kept sailing. Out here, victory is not measured by wreckage on the seabed. It is measured by who remains on course and who is forced into the light.